Hey, welcome back, everyone. I've got a really interesting knife to talk about that is one I've been interested in seeing for quite a while. Maybe not this specific model, but something from Rockstead I have wanted to check out for a long time. So my buddy Kyle over at Red Wolf EDC YouTube channel sent in this Rockstead Higo, I think you pronounce it. Higo. Higo, not sure. But this is a crazy interesting knife. And it's got some really awesome things and it's got some lackluster things. This particular model is out of stock, discontinued. It's an older model. Um, but let's talk about it. It was in that $900 to $1,000 range when it was new. And yeah, Rockstead has a good name. This is made in Japan, has a lot of special processes and things with it. So let's just run through the specs first, and then I'll go into a little bit of a ramble of some of the pluses and minuses. Let's dive into it. 4 7/8 inches closed, double thumb stud deployment on the blade, 8.5 inches overall, 3.53-inch blade, 3.27-inch cutting edge. We'll come back to the blade steel. The blade thickness is 0.125. Overall thickness is 0.462 minus the clip. Weighs in at 3.8 ounces and runs amazingly smooth on these phosphor bronze washers. Like crazy smooth. Sabenza-ish, but just, yeah, crazy. It's I can't even explain it in words, honestly. It's just that nuts the way the action is. You got to give it a little bit of oomph, right? The detent is a little bit light for me. So sometimes it kind of misfires if you're not deliberate about your thumb flip. So the blade steel, I was told, was ZDP 189. However, when I did some research, it appears that the DLC coated blade, and we'll zoom in here, forgive any lint or fingerprints because I wiped it off right before the video. But it is a mirror polished blade on that primary bevel and then DLC coated. So it is fingerprint and lint magnet. So my understanding is that the DLC coated blade is out of YXR7 blade steel. Okay, whatever. These are duraluminum scales is what they called them. I don't completely understand what that is, but they are also DLC coated. The blade is really the centerpiece of this knife. Okay. The mirror polish. Now, I'm not a mirror polish guy in general, but mirror polish with a DLC black coating, I'm kind of all about that. It's actually beautiful, and I'm sure the video is not doing it justice. But the blade is just done really super well. Why there's a hole in that little fuller, I don't know if that's aesthetics or if that's part of the manufacturing process that they need the hole. I don't know. I could do without the hole personally, but hey, whatever. The interesting thing about this is it's a super thin coating of DLC. They call it 3 micron, which apparently is super thin. I don't know about what a standard DLC coating treatment would be. But they say that they can do that because the blade is so hard and it won't vibrate or anything like that, so that the DLC coating won't crack. On a normal blade, apparently it needs to be thicker because there is some flex and vibration in a blade, typically, and that would crack a 3 micron DLC coating. So they say, right? The mirror polish action, and I'm going to put a link to a website down below where Rockstead talks about this, is hand done from 400 grit up to 2000 grit, done by hand, and then it goes to some special proprietary, we're not going to tell you, fancy finishing after it's hand rubbed to 2000 grit. There's a forward finger choil, so you can choke up a little bit. There's some jimping on the back of the blade. There's some jimping on the underside of the blade. Very cool. Another unique aspect of this is the blade grind on the secondary edge, or the final edge, is 2 different grind angles. So about halfway through and up is 24-degree final bevel. From this point back, it's at 30 degrees because they have determined that those are the best, sharpest angles and the strongest angles. And how they do that is, again, proprietary type of thing, but it is one continuous grind all the way through. So you can't feel the difference. I don't know if you were sharpening, you could tell. Like, I don't sharpen blades, so I don't know. But also, sharpening this blade would be a bit tough, if it will focus here, because that secondary edge is just so minute, you can't see where it is, and it's really not focusing there. But I'm guessing you would have trouble sharpening this and not messing up the DLC coating. That's my concern. Rockstead does offer free sharpening if you're the original owner, but you have to ship it all the way back to Japan, which could be a little costly. I'm not too worried about the costs in that, but then you're taking that risk of shipping things. So sharpening this would be an issue for me, I think, based on what I know. The other negative or drawback thing here, outside the sharpening, there's 2 other things, is they spent so much time on the blade, which is beautiful, stunning. The handles are okay, nicely milled, feel great in hand. The hardware and the pivot almost feel like an afterthought. It's just kind of standard Torx hardware, not anodized, not color, just kind of there. And then the pocket clip is where they lose me. It's a standard bent steel spring clip, black anodized coating or something, and then made in Japan stamped right on it. It's kind of like they started out as a 10 over here, and they spent all of their energy, and then as they went towards the back of the knife, they kind of fell off a little bit and said, we'll just mill some pattern in the aluminum handles. We'll give it just standard pivot. And then they got to the clip, and they're like, oh, man, I guess it needs a clip. And they just grabbed something from the spare parts bin, and they slapped it on. I mean, I don't know. That's a bummer for me, that they didn't spend half of the detail that they spent on the blade on the pocket clip. Now, the pocket clip works amazingly great, and I have no problem with its function. It's just lackluster compared to the other end of the knife. So for me, aesthetically, it's out of balance. It just, I don't know. That's a thing for me. Plus the action. I mean, the action is nice, but having a light detent means it does not always deploy for me. You can slow roll it. You can sort of finger front flip it because this tang does extend, but you have to kind of give it a lot of wrist and be really intentional with it. So, everybody says, and we'll do some size comparisons here. We'll do it backwards so you can look at the clip. We'll do it normal. A lot of people say YouTubers should only review knives that we like and love, and why would anybody review something they don't like? Here it is next to the Sharpie. I say the opposite. I'm going to review knives I don't like. Spyderco Delica. And quite frankly, I don't really like the Rockstead. This particular model, this particular example. Here it is next to the Quiet Carry Waypoint. There may be other examples or other models that Rockstead does. Here's another blacked out Kubi KB230. There may be other models that Rockstead does that I would like better. And the Hellraiser P series. But this particular model isn't my fave. I don't really care for it. And at $900 or $1,000 if you bought it on the secondary today, maybe it's less, maybe it's $700 on secondary. I don't like it. I wouldn't buy one just because of the things I've mentioned. The action is not super great for me. It needs a stronger detent. The pocket clip is just out of place on this knife. They didn't spend the time to do a nice clip on a really badass knife. The blade, absolutely fantastic. The rest of the knife is just okay. It's average, sufficient. But in contrast there, it's just too unbalanced for me. So, yeah, there you go. For all the people that say I only review things I like, I don't. I don't like this one. But here I am reviewing it and giving it an honest breakdown of all the parts and pieces and whatnot. So, there you go, guys. The Rockstead Higo from Kyle over at the Red Wolf EDC channel. So go check him out, and I will put a link to the Rockstead website where they explain their blade grinding process, their blade finishing process, and all that, because it's very interesting. So yeah, go check that out too if you're interested in that kind of stuff, because I found it very interesting. So have a great day. Thanks for watching, everyone, and we will see you tomorrow.